Okay, and we're back with part two.
Part
Tracy is
two.
telling us a riveting story about the path not taken.
Yeah, the path not taken is I had come into a bit of money from my grandmother. She died, inheritance. I was going to buy an around the world ticket. I think I was going to fly to Australia, visit my aunt. Then I wanted to do it end in Australia, but my mother was absolutely mortified that I was going to hit London and Thailand and all these other places. And so I thought, I'm going to do it in reverse. And she just didn't go, no. So I was going to do Australia and then I was going to do Thailand and then I was going to do, I think, like Italy and London and then fly home or fly home through New York or something. Anyway, it was going to take me a year. It was a one way, it was a round trip, open ended ticket. And then, yeah, the guy that I was seeing, he was my very first real serious relationship, first guy I slept with. And he was like, well, don't expect me to wait for you. And so I had to sit with that for a while. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'm not going to go.
Yeah.
Relationship didn't last much
Because you
longer
were
after
in
that.
love.
I was
Unfortunately
in
for young
love with
women,
this
it's
guy.
like the ability inability to ever think clearly when you are in
Yep.
love,
So
especially
what
in
did I
your early
do?
20s.
I
Yeah.
know. Yeah. And I think I was 20, yeah, 20 or 21 when I did this.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I went and bought a car. So even after we broke up, I still couldn't go travel because it was sitting in a car.
Yeah.
You
No.
know, and so yes, there are times where I'm like, I will go travel, but what would it have been like in my 20s versus my
Yeah.
50s or 60s? You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
and those are the sorts of things that every once in a while it's like, what would have happened? Excuse me, I've got the hiccups now. If I had done that.
Yeah.
And I can what if myself to death,
Right.
but it's not worth it. It was a choice
No.
that I made. I
Yeah.
have to be okay with that choice. And I've come to terms with it. Every once in a while
Yeah.
it might be like, I wonder what that would have been like. But I mean, I can't give myself too much grief or I would wallow.
Well, you can. It's very easy. You could easily get bogged down in it because, I was born and raised in Louisiana, and my whole thing, my entire teenage, early adult, is like I wanted to live in California. I
Oh.
had never even been there. I had just decided this is where I wanted to be. Well, ended up, late 20s, met a guy. We got together, got married. Well, his job took us from Louisiana to Texas, which is how we got here, and he refused to ever move out of Texas.
Oh.
I tried to get us, I'm not kidding, the things I tried. Oregon, Oregon, Washington State. I wanted to be on the Pacific side of America. This is what I wanted. And he was so risk averse. Like he wouldn't even look for another job. He wouldn't even do that. No,
Oh.
wouldn't even look.
Wow.
And at the time, because we had three little kids, it was like, well, we have to do what he wants to do because he's the primary breadwinner and his job has more potential and blah, 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 the things you tell yourself when you have little kids running
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And so here I sit, and today, ask me in 2025, do I wish I had gone to California? Yep, for a whole bunch of different
Well,
reasons.
you still got lots of time.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, but I think about that a lot. It's like, what would my life have been like if I said, put it on the record? I want to live in California. It's a non-negotiable for me. This is something that means something to me for whatever reason my brain
Yep.
had decided this.
Yep.
And he would have either been on board or not. You could have
Yeah.
said, I want to go do this world traveling. I love you, but I need to do this for me. And this comes
Yep.
back to our what we were talking about earlier. Our part two is decentering men
Men. Yeah,
because
starting
we do
to make
everything for
decisions
their
based.
comfort. They do everything for their comfort, and we do everything for their comfort and
Yes.
preferences.
Yeah.
And the only person who ends up making all the compromises and the sacrifice, 8 times out of 10, I'll say is a woman, if not 9 times out of 10.
And if you say otherwise, I call bullshit,
Yeah, absolutely.
honestly,
And
because
that could be, yeah, we talked about this earlier. It could be a major life choice. Like I didn't end up in the state I wanted to be in. And now, look at the state of America. Or you don't want to do an activity. You absolutely despise this activity, but he really loves it.
mhm.
And you will suck it up and make that all of a sudden your activity. You will learn about this activity, all the things just so y'all have something to do together, but he wouldn't do that in
Yep.
reverse.
Yeah, no, I could pretty much say that with certainty because that is my entire upbringing
Yeah.
as mom
No,
doing
you
stuff.
capitulate to what they want. They are the center of the universe. And if, kids are supposed to be quiet so dad can rest or so dad isn't stressed out after a hard day at work. It's like everybody circles around what
The
keeps
only
dad
thing,
happy.
the only thing they did differently that I do see some of Quinn's friends doing that to me is just the weirdest thing in the world, but again, it's because it's not how I grew up. He's got this one family, this friend of his, they literally do everything together. Everything.
But does
Every,
everybody like the exact same things? Do they truly like the exact same things?
no, they don't. But when I do that, I mean, is one child does one sport, they all go to that sport and watch. Another child does a different sport,
That's going to
they
be
all
hard
go to that
going. It's
sport
hard to keep up. That's
together,
really
right?
hard.
They do everything together.
Yeah,
And that is just so strange to me. I've because I did not grow up that way. So yes, mom did she didn't do the activities that dad liked because she just wasn't very sports related, but she was the dutiful wife who
yes,
did the after stuff, right? Like if there was barbecues to be had, birthday parties to be had,
right.
we usually hosted them because it was karate related and my dad was the sensei. So the sensei hosted the barbecues and the parties and the sorry, I've got gray hair that is pissing me off. I need a haircut. I can sort of see it, but I can't see it. And so, she was the dutiful hostess, let's call it. If she sees this, she's going to be mortified I ever said that. But anyway, I just see her doing all of these things whereas mom was more of the artsy,
Right,
like plays and operas and ballets and that sort of thing. And dad would do them once in a while. They would do date night and they would trade off what they did, but they rarely did them together or as a family,
right.
right? So what ended up happening, dad did all the sports stuff, mom stayed home. Dad did all the camping, mom stayed home. Mom did all the art stuff, dad stayed home.
Yeah.
And so it's weird watching these families when they do everything together. I'm kind of like, that's a little weird. That's a bit
Well,
much.
I even had that problem. I know somebody that dates a guy, and she's young, she's in her 20s, and he has a family like that. Like they're literally, if there is a long weekend and there could be multiple of the, everybody has to go to the grandmother's house, even if they have to drive from out of state.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
like expected of you, and everybody acquiesces, everybody just does it. And that is so foreign to me.
Well, see, and that brings us back to the expectation of women slash families,
Yes.
right? And uh, how do I want to say this? Where there's no option to question why
Yes.
we're doing something that we're
Yes.
doing, right? Whereas even growing up, I would drive my parents nuts. I would drive my teachers nuts. I would like, because I always asked why. I even drive my bosses nuts. Why? Why are we
Yeah.
doing
Why
that?
are
That
we
doesn't make
doing
sense,
this? Yeah.
you know? And anything beyond, well, that's just the way it's always been done, I would accept. But you give me a, well, that's just how it's always been done. Nope, finding a different way.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is what's expected of the family. Why? Well, it's because that's what grandma wants. And it's usually the matriarch that you know,
Yes.
sort of does set the tone. But what really, um, what really gets me curious is when we're talking in the realm of what we do and, like where we've come from, this Ayesha Curry, we've sort of gone all over the place here.
Right.
Women don't always get a lot of say in stuff, right? Like we have these standards, whether they're regular standards, expectations, double standards, whatever they are. There are these things that are sort of expected of us. And we always say that it comes from the patriarchy, right? Like
Right.
certain rules that we may talk about in another video and all of this, like Aisha saying that she didn't expect to have kids or didn't want kids, didn't want to get married.
Right.
Well, that's not the norm.
Right. Or
But
is it?
well,
Or you
yeah,
see, that's the whole thing. We've been silent for so long. There are, as we were finding out, there are a lot of women who didn't want or don't want kids. How many videos of older women have we listened to and
yeah.
watched that they said, A, they wish they'd never gotten married, that their whole life was spent, catering to that, and they're like in their 80s and 90s, some of them. And some
And
of them,
so they would be
wishing they,
considered,
they wanted to be childless, but they had to
yeah.
stay home and have children.
But see, so then don't you find it interesting that when there are these familial expectations, let's call them, right?
Yes.
As you were saying, people having to drive from out of state to do stuff, it's because of the matriarch. Yet, day to day, we really don't. get a whole lot of say in stuff. So to me,
No.
it's always the dichotomy of that has always sort of interested me, where we live in a patriarchal world and a lot of fashion choices, a lot of jobs, a lot of education and health and all of this stuff is driven by older white men who made these laws, these rules, these things. But yet, when it comes to family, it is the matriarch that tends to set the rules
Yeah.
of these things. But even then, I bet you that matriarch, if she was honest with herself, might say, I wish I didn't have kids.
Yeah. Or
But
not so
because I
many of
have
them.
kids, this
Yeah.
is what you're going to do for me.
Yeah, no, it's like that everything comes with an expectation, but I would even, and I don't know that this is necessarily across the blanket true, but in this particular case, this woman is widowed. Is like, did that start with her husband or did it
Mm,
start with her? The expectation that,
yeah.
we're the mom and the pop, everybody just has to come to us, which is fairly typical. A lot of families do that. They're just these days are starting to break away from it. But I know lots of people that, and that's why people hate the holidays because they always
Yeah.
have to travel. They don't ever get to stay home and just enjoy stuff. Even if you're miserable, you have to come celebrate with us.
Yeah. I know my grandmother always used to say that the kids should stay home and the relatives should come to the kids. Like they shouldn't be torn away from their toys and stuff. So they would come sometimes, or we would go there pre-Christmas, so that then Christmas was just amongst us, right? I do know a lot of people that split up Christmas
Yeah.
Day, the morning here, and then you go and do it here, and it is a bit hodgepodge. Um,
But you know what else
mm,
we do is like, okay, the world is centered around men and it still is. But a lot of times we do the work for us, like we take on those roles. Like I'm talking the grandmothers who were very it's like, man, my grandmother was stuck in their ways. It's like they actually start acting like more the men a lot of the time.
yeah,
It does happen.
yeah. I do notice that there is a pull away from that though. Like as soon as
Yes.
my grandfather died, I think we rallied around grandma for a while, obviously, because Lord only knows how long they'd been married, right? But as soon as she died, now this is on my mother's side, as soon as she died, all the gatherings fell apart.
Yeah.
She was the glue
She
that
was the
held
glue.
everybody
That's really
together.
the thing. Yeah. And
And
that's a
maybe
shame.
that's why this particular matriarch says you have to do this, and so everybody comes together,
Yeah.
because maybe they know once she's gone,
Yeah.
there's no reason for them to travel out of state.
It's
And I
like
don't know how easy it
that's
is,
a
but
whole different topic. It's like, why does that happen if the women are usually the glue? Why are they the glue? Why are they the only glue? Let me just say, not that they're the glue, but it's like, and again, a lot of times we get our meaning out of that, which again, we're always looking for our own validation outside of just ourselves because, you get the grandmas and the moms that cry when their kids don't come see them and you don't love me anymore and that kind of thing. I've got a few people I know that have that issue, but in decentering men, we also have to make sure we're not becoming them and doing the
yeah,
same things that we're really not loving about them. And we talked
yeah,
about this before in the world of the sexual realm. There's a lot of women think they are sexually liberated, but they've just become a feminine version of what the patriarchy expects women to do. We've
yeah,
just softened and soft selling it with sexual liberation when in fact as long as you're still taking your clothes off they don't care. They don't care what you call it
yeah,
whatever you want as long as you're stripping down and doing all the things. You can
yeah.
be a feminist all day long if you want to as long as you're doing it naked
Right?
you know
Yeah. And I guess really at the end of the day, a lot of what we are centering our work around and these opinion pieces that we come on here and
right.
do is really just asking women to be honest with themselves. One, why did Ayesha saying not having kids and not wanting to get married anger you so much? Why do you wear what you wear? Don't have hobbies. Why don't you have hobbies? See, in your case, it was probably easier to not have hobbies than argue with him about those hobbies, right? Like, I
Yeah.
think we just need to get honest with ourselves about these things, right? Um, yeah, I think
And
early
I
on in
think
my,
for the women who want to be like when we're talking about the ones who insist on like hosting the holiday celebrations like the question would be do you enjoy it? Because
yeah,
I'll tell you, I have been inserted into that role because everybody's dead. And and sometimes I am finding of late, I don't want the responsibility, but
Yeah.
it's what everybody expects.
Yeah. And so I think that's part of,
It's again, it's just being honest about how you feel about where you are, looking back presently and even looking forward. It's like it's okay to say the ugly stuff out loud. We've been conditioned to think it's such a terrible thing to say, you know what? I don't want to be the one that hosts Christmas every freaking year. It's a lot of work. I would like to
yeah. And I
enjoy the
think,
holiday and be on the receiving end of that sometimes.
well, and so take that then to the next step is A, admitting it, B, saying it out loud,
Yeah.
because that's usually taboo, and then
And risk
C,
hurting everybody's feelings that care so much.
yeah, and then C, work, and this is the hardest part. I think admitting it and saying it out loud will be difficult for some,
Yeah.
but that's the easy part. The hard part is then setting that boundary
Yes.
around
And
what
changing
you have
the way
sort of
things are
discovered about
done.
yourself,
Yeah.
right? And if we take the holidays, because I had Thanksgiving, yours is coming up, and then we've got Christmas, it's hard. Like there is an expectation that it's going to be somewhere, and it's usually your house, and your can be
Yeah.
whoever, so how come you don't want to do it now? And I think what it does, that boundary, A, you're afraid of pissing people off, and B, now someone else has to step into that role, and they might be well, I don't know what to do. Okay, well, I didn't say that I wouldn't help you. I just
Right.
don't want to host it,
Yeah. And
you
you
know?
also might have a little thing going on that if you let go of what's always been yours, someone else might do it better.
Well, there is
And
that as well, and
there's a
the
whole, I mean, it's such a
control
layered
factor.
thing in there where what women are judged on.
Yeah.
Because we even get judged for how well we put on a holiday.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Well, yeah, and there could be a control piece in there
Yeah.
too. Like, I don't I'm afraid that someone else is going to do it better than
Oh,
I did it.
yeah. And
You
then that
know?
makes me less than, other than maybe I'm just
Yeah.
freaking tired. And
Yeah.
it's time to step aside and let someone else with all the energy and all the new ideas and make their ideas are just as valid, even if it's 180 degrees different than what you would have done.
Yeah, see, and it's interesting because I actually offered, was it last year or the year before? I can't even remember now. But so usually a couple of weeks before Christmas, um, my mom's side of the family is closest. My dad's only got a sister and she's in Australia, so a little hard. But my mom's side of the family, or part of my mom's side of the family, would gather at one aunt's house. She always put it on. It was her thing. We'd go to Daphne's and we would have like an early Christmas family thing where we would exchange the gifts. We never opened them, but we just exchange them and have a turkey dinner and all the fixins, right? Well, she got sick. Not sick. I think she fell and hurt herself. And so it didn't happen one year. And I was like, well, I've got a dining room downstairs. Like, and I never used to have one in the condo. So I was like, well, I could host it. Oh, well, we probably didn't think of it soon enough. And, Dad probably this, not. And there was all these excuses as to why I couldn't host it, right?
Right.
And I was like, whatever. Like, I'm just putting it out there. And I was actually thinking this morning, I was like, I did Thanksgiving dinner last night. It wasn't great. It was not my best. I have done better. But who's to stop? Like, I don't have enough tables and chairs. I'm sure I could figure that
Right.
out. But I'm just like, maybe I'll offer again, because now she's really quite unwell. She ended up in the
Right.
hospital again. And, I don't even know if she would want to come here given some of her trials and tribulations. But yeah, I think there is that, um, I don't know what to do. I don't have enough space. You've always done it. You just do it better. I don't want to give it up, because
Yeah.
what if someone does it better? And I think this is where women really need to start being more honest with themselves. Didn't want kids, but you ended up with kids? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You didn't want to get married and you got married? Cool.
Yeah.
Didn't travel when you wanted to travel? Well, you know what? You could
Yeah.
always try again when you're retired.
Yeah.
You host all of the holidays and you really don't want to? Okay,
Yeah.
cut yourself some slack,
Yeah.
tell somebody you're on strike, and someone else has to
Yeah.
pick it
And
up. And
that's
if they don't, they don't.
yeah, generally we know the strength of women is that we can communally get a lot of things done. We don't have to control everything, but I think that is a little bit left over of the patriarchal system that there can only be one winner. There can only be one boss. There can only be
Yes.
one right way of doing things, as opposed to saying, you know what? You look like, you want to do this, girl, you go. I will be here to support you. That would be the matriarchal more way of being commutally supportive regard as long as it gets done. Isn't that the objective that you have a great
Well,
holiday?
see, and my thoughts as you're saying that is I could host dinner because I have a big enough living room now to host the 10 or 12 people that would come, but I'm going to tell everybody to bring something.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's no one way to do it to make it. You have to always say, what's your end game to have a great holiday with my family? That can be accomplished all kinds of ways. Grandma, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be at your house, but that is a leftover thing of the way patriarchy looks at things is there's only one head, one right way, one
Yeah.
path, one set of things that can
Well,
make women happy.
and I'm going to put this on women. How much have you slaved for your family? If
Yeah.
you haven't slaved for your family, then are you really like that
Oh my
invested in your
goodness.
family, right?
Yeah.
And so this again comes back to the question that I would love answered in the comments. Let's have a dialogue going on here.
Right.
And, let you want to be negative, be negative. We will, like, I'd
We
still,
can take it.
difference of
Yeah.
opinions.
We're
Let's
Gen X.
have
We
the
got thick skin. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and we don't learn unless we disagree and then can have a
Right.
conversation about that disagreement, right? And I want you to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And when I say you, I mean collectively in the
Yeah.
comments.
And
Dawn
because
and I know how
remember,
we
and
feel
this is,
about
we're
it.
also part of the We Do Not Care Club. So don't take this personally, but we don't
Yeah.
care what your answer is. We just want to hear
Yeah.
your answer.
Yeah. We would just like to open up a dialogue for you guys to say, this is me being honest with myself and I believe X, Y, and Z, right?
Right.
Or I don't believe X, Y, and Z, like
Right.
was there a time where you wish something had happened differently or you'd made a different choice and sometimes you beat yourself up over it? You know what? That's okay.
It is
But
okay.
you didn't make that decision. You're where you are now, and I
Yeah.
think we need to accept that. But it's okay to wish you'd done something
Right.
differently.
And we have to also recognize that the world has evolved so much, and every year it is evolves. It's like we're not trees. We're not planted firmly in one spot that says we can
Yeah.
never change anything about ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it was a different time. I don't care when you're looking back on it, it was a different time. Options were different depending on your personal circumstances. And if you had it to do over, you might make the same choice again. There's
Yeah, we
nobody
don't
saying you wouldn't
know.
have made that same choice if it would have been
Yeah.
presented because you did the best you could at the moment you made the decision. It's just
With the
saying,
information that
yeah,
you
just be
had.
honest and say,
Yeah.
you know what, yeah, I really did want to travel the world. And some days it really, grinds my gears that I didn't do that, but I'm still going to do it. If I want to in 5 years, I'm still going to
And
do it.
and I'm just going to have a different experience because doing it in a hostel in your 20s
Yeah.
is not something I plan on doing in my 50s
No,
or 60s,
heaven
right? I will
no.
probably be hoteling it
Yeah,
or
it'd be much more
Airbnb-ing it
comfortable,
or
but yeah,
something,
in your
right?
20s you wouldn't have cared. But now, okay, now
No.
you do. You've evolved and you're like, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. So it will be a different experience.
Yeah.
And do I know what it would be like to be in the hostels? No. But I have enough friends that traveled and told me their stories that I'm like, you know what? I don't even know if I would have enjoyed that in my
Yeah.
20s.
And yeah, it's like, and I'm going to say this, and this might rub some people the wrong ways. Like, not only are we asking you in what ways, small and large, have you centered men, but where have
Oh,
you centered everyone but yourself? And that includes
yeah.
your children, your grandma, Aunt Gladys, whoever it is in the world is like you've centered everything in your life except yourself. And
Yes.
can you admit that out loud and give us a couple examples of that just to for the
Yes.
practice of saying it out loud and find out nothing's going to happen if you say it out loud. You're
Yes.
not going to evaporate, explode into thin air because you said
No.
something terrible. And again, we don't care what your answer is. We just want to hear your answers. But can you admit it that, yeah, I have never once put myself first, ever?
Yes. And on that note, I have someone at my door. So I think we're
Oh,
going to call that a day.
okay, we will call part two a day. And our next up is going to be about Kris Jenner and her fancy new makeover
I
she
think
got.
so. Yes.
All
All
righty,
right.
we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Oh.
Okay, what the hell?